Hi, Paul from PowerWashStore.com here. We're going to do a walk around of the Blacklidge pressure wash, soft wash combination skid. I'm going to start kind of in the back here. You can see we have a 55-gallon tank for our bleach. We have a 100-gallon tank for our water. We have two 7-gallon tanks for the proportioner for his chemicals. And we have an additional 7-gallon tank over there for either downstream or additional soap for his unit. On the 100-gallon tank here, you'll see we have two float valves, which are connected to our two garden hose reels here. This will allow him to either just feed the tank for using the pressure washer, or he can feed the tank and the booster pump at the same time. That's in the toolbox. It's coming around the side here. You'll see we have these stacked on here. We have the economy hose guides on here. These are really nice, very inexpensive, and do a real nice job for these hose reels. Each one of these has 300 feet of the half-inch blue Currytech agricultural hose with garden hose connections on them. Here we have the 5-ace Currytech blue ag hose for the booster pump sprayer, and we have a 18-inch electric Titan reel here as well for the high pressure hose. You'll see on these particular hoses we actually had custom stainless steel cores made for him to be able to use them with high pressure, so he doesn't have any issues with, he can run it with the hot water, not worry about the PVC cores melting or collapsing or anything like that. We have a 4,000 watt Honda generator on here. On the back he has a light bar which can be controlled from the cab. What he'll do is run this wire up to his cab once he gets his truck, and then he can hook that up directly in the cab, so when he gets to a job site he can turn the flasher on right away to let people know when he's on the road here. We have our platform 11-gallon gasoline tank that's hooked up to a 7-gallon a minute, 4,000 PSI water dragon gear drive pressure washer with the Udor pump. We have a 22-gallon diesel tank. On the side here you'll see we have a stainless steel mount for his surface cleaner that he can lift in and out of here to put on the truck. And then we have our water dragon hot water heater on here as well. On the back of the toolbox we have our proportioner set up. We have inside the box quite a lot going on. We have two different transfer pumps in the back. We have one that's for transferring chemical onto the truck, and we have another one that's hooked up to water that he can use directly to squirt water directly out, which is the way he wanted that set up. Both of those are set up with the hoses long enough if you ever need to switch from pump to pump. You'll be able to do that real easily, and I'll show you that in just a second here. We have our booster pump on here, our 1 horsepower booster pump with the Pro switch for on-off control with the trigger gun, hooked up to our proportioner. We have our switch in the back here which controls the water transfer pump that he wanted on here. We have our chemical selector lines that allow us to choose between tanks 1 and 2, and then tanks 1 or 2 and tank 3. So he'll be able to select between the two tanks right here. I believe that's how this is set up. Yep. So we have the ability to choose down here, from down here you can choose between one of the two tanks, tank 1 or tank 2. And then this one here allows him to choose between tanks 1 and 2 or tank 3. So these are all his chemical lines here. Over on the other side here, we have his water and his SH line that connects to his proportioner, to the SH valve on the proportioner for flushing out the proportioner. Inside here you'll also see a series of 4 valves on here, and they're labeled SH, detergent 1, detergent 2, detergent 3. This will allow him, with his transfer pump that he has in back here, to draw from off the truck with the drop tube that we have here, so he can take the drop stick, put it in whatever box he wants, take one of his hoses here, and then just connect it to the inlet right here. And by turning this pump on right here, he'll be able to select where he wants this chemical to go to. So he can transfer SH from off the truck by just opening the SH valve. If he wants to transfer the detergent tank 1 from off the truck, he can just open the detergent tank 1 valve. Detergent 2 and detergent 3. So selecting This will select where he wants it to go from when he's drawing from the drop stick to the tanks. This way he doesn't ever have to climb up into the truck. The second pump here is plumbed directly to the water tank, and that goes out to the back there. You can see the little nipple on the back of the truck right behind underneath the proportioner. If he ever has to change this because one of his pumps goes down and he wants to use the other pump, it's very easy to change these. All you have to do is pull down on the little blue clip until it's loose, pull the barb out, bring it over to the other pump. Got a little extra slack in there, slide it into the pump like that, and lock it into place. There you go. So now this pump will pump to the other section, and then you'll switch both lines, not just one. So we're going to put this back the way it was. So changing pumps over is as easy as that, just switching the barbs over to one pump or the other. We have our control wizard on here, and this is hooked up to his electric valve, which you can see, which is right above the pro switch inside there. What he'll do is he'll actually turn this switch on in the center here. There's no battery hooked up right now. This switch will light up. What that'll allow him to do when he wants to switch between drawing from the proportioner and rinsing, all he has to do is hit the button, the A button on his remote control, which is in the bag up here with the parts. So you would hit the A button on the remote control, and what that will do is take the valves and switch it from drawing from the proportioner to being force fed with the water. That's also done with the priming as well to prime the unit. If he loses his remotes and he wants to do it manually, all he has to do is turn this remote on and come right up here and push on the button. The button will light up and the valves will switch automatically. So the center button is his power, and the left button is the switch between the valves, either drawing from the proportioner or rinsing under garden hose feed. By default, when this is not lit up and the button is not pushed, it will be drawing from the proportioner. So the only way to get it to force feed is to actually activate the valves to cause them to switch. And he has two different remotes in here. He has a short range remote key fob, and he has a long range remote. On the side of the remote, you'll see there's a little switch here. If I hit the button, you'll see it lights up. If I turn the switch off, the button won't light up. So you like to leave that in the off position. It makes the batteries last a lot longer. The booster pump is equipped with a ground fault plug on here to allow him to have the protection. This cord runs all the way over, and it is wired up to his generator. If for some reason he doesn't want to use his generator, he can either plug it in there or pull the cord back through. The priming of the unit is performed in the same way as a lot of the other ones we did. I'll walk through it very quickly, but there are more extensive videos. The priming of these systems works the same, whether it's one of our booster pump skids, whether it's a small skid or a large skid. So we do the same process with all of them. So what we're going to do, I'm going to start while I'm right here. I'm just going to turn this onto water. I'm going to turn my SH valve to water. I'm going to turn my soap valves both up right now. So right now I'll be drawing from one of my soap tanks directly. So we'll have to prime that. Because he has so many soap tanks, he'll have to prime each one of them to really make everything work properly, as well as the SH line. So what we would do is we'd start up our generator or plug it in, pull our hose off our unit, and just squeeze the trigger. We'll pull it out here just to kind of give you an idea. So I would pull the hose out and bring it back here. What I will do is I'll start with the water line. I'll turn my booster pump on. I'll turn my water all the way on, and I'll squeeze the trigger. What I'll do is I'll take my remote and I'll activate the valve to be force fed from the garden hose. So I'll activate the valve. You'll hear the valve turn, and you'll see it being force fed from the garden hose. I'll count to 10. Then I'll hit the A button again to turn it off to draw from the proportioner, and it'll draw in through the proportioner. And now I'll do that process 3 to 4 times until I can look inside here and see that all the water, and there's no air coming into the water valve. Then I'll shut my water valve off. I'll repeat that same process with my detergent valve. I'll open it up all the way. I'll squeeze the trigger. I'll hit the A button to force feed it with water, count to 10, hit the A button again to let it draw through the proportioner, count to 10, hit the A button again, count to 10, and you'll wash that line. With the detergent, you may not have to wait very long to get it to prime because it's such a small line. What I would suggest when you initially start this unit up and pre-prime everything is fill the tanks with water, at least halfway with water, and fill the water tank up all the way to make the float stick, and that gets the air out of the system from the lines existing in the unit. Start and prime everything with water. It's very easy to run the water out. You don't want to fill it with bleach and detergent and then end up using a whole bunch of soap when you first prime it. So you can run it down low and then fill everything up. So we'll do that process again. The A button to force feed water, A button again to draw through the proportioner. I'll do that until that first line is primed. At that point, I'll come back over here to the detergent, and you remember I switched this up. I was drawing from my number 1 line up on the top. I'm going to switch this down, and I'm going to draw from tank number 2. Same thing. Hit the A button, force feed with water. Hit the A button again, draw through the proportioner. 10 seconds between. I'll do that process a couple of times till I get the air out of the line. Then I'll come back over here one more time. I'll switch to my tank number 3 by turning this valve to the down position. Same process. A button to force feed, A button to proportioner. A button to force feed, A button to proportioner. 10 seconds between. After I've primed all the detergent lines, I'll turn that one off. I'll do the same thing with my SH line. I got this on water in the back here right now, so I'm going to do that first. A button to force feed to get the air out, 10 seconds. A button again to turn it off, draw through the proportioner, 10 seconds. Do that 2 or 3 times till I can see the air come out. Force feed it. One more step, I'll come back. I'll turn this to water, from water to SH. So I'm drawing from my SH tank, and I'll turn it. Same process, hit the A button, force feed it with water, hit the A button again, draw from the proportioner. And we'll do that 10 seconds each. Once all the air's out of the system, I can go through and I can turn my water on all the way. I can turn my SH to the setting where I want it, 2-3%, my detergent where I want it. Hit the A button, force feed to get all the air out of the system. It probably takes about 40 to 50 seconds to get all the what's in the line out of the line to get fresh water. Then I can go to the proportioner and start spraying and rinsing and doing that. I would recommend practicing with some water before you mix everything up. But once it's primed, as long as you don't run out of any chemical, you should not have to prime the tank. So make sure you keep your lines full and your tanks full all the time. If you do get air in it, all you should have to do is reprime that individual component. If you get air in your bleach or air in one of your soap tanks. But if you do get air in there and you don't reprime it, the machine won't work properly. You'll see the distance drop. So you'll have to go through the process to make sure you keep it primed. At the end of the day, you're going to want to come through and rinse everything out. You're going to turn your detergent off. You're going to turn your SH up all the way. You're going to come back over to your detergent, your SH and water valve, and then you're going to take your valve and you're going to turn it up so the arrow points to water. You're going to come through here and you're going to spray through the proportioner until you get all the suds out and flush your line out. It'll flush out your line and flush out your proportioner. And at the end of the day, you just have to shut your unit off, turn your valves off, pack everything up, and you're all set. So this is the Blacklidge. One more thing here. You can see on the burner here, this is the temperature control for the burner. This is an inline thermostat. So if you want to set your temperature higher or lower, this little dial right here will turn all the way clockwise, makes it hotter, all the way counterclockwise, makes it colder. So that is your adjustable thermostat to determine how hot you want this unit to be. This is the Blacklidge unit from California. We appreciate your purchase. Paul at powerwashstore.com, 855-351-9274.